May 1945. A German woman stands at the barbed wire fence of an Allied prisoner camp, clutching a tin cup. Her name is Greta Hoffmann. She is 32 years old and her world has just collapsed. Behind her, the ruins of Hamburg still smolder. In front of her, an American soldier approaches. He is tall, black, and wearing the uniform of the Quartermaster Corps. His name is Sergeant James Carter. What happens next will defy every expectation the war has burned into both of them. Because in this moment, across this fence, something impossible begins, a conversation that should never have happened, a kindness that breaks every rule, and a truth that history tried to bury. Greta will later write in her diary, "He handed me bread, not like a conqueror, like a man who remembered hunger." This is not a story about victory. It is a story about what happens when the enemy becomes human. But let us rewind 6 weeks earlier. The war is not yet over. James Carter has been in Europe for 11 months. He has unloaded supply ships in Normandy. He has driven trucks through the frozen Ardennes. He has never fired a shot in combat because that is not what the army allows men who look like him to do. The segregated military has decided that black soldiers are fit for labor, not valor. James knows this. He has swallowed this bitterness for so long it no longer burns. It just sits cold and heavy in his chest. Tonight, he is on guard duty at a displaced persons camp outside Lüneburg. The camp holds German civilians awaiting processing. Women, children, old men, the defeated. James walks the perimeter in the rain, his rifle slung over his shoulder. He thinks about Georgia, about his mother's kitchen. About a girl named Ruby who stopped writing 6 months ago. He hears a sound, crying, quiet, choked, trying to be silent. James stops walking. The sound is coming from behind one of the barracks. He should ignore it. He should keep moving. But something in that sound, the rawness of it, pulls him forward. He rounds the corner. A woman sits on the ground, her back against the wooden wall, her knees pulled to her chest. She is young, maybe 25, with blonde hair gone dull and unwashed. Her dress is threadbare. When she sees James, she freezes. Her eyes go wide, not with hatred, with fear, the kind of fear that expects violence. James has seen this look before, in the faces of German prisoners, in the faces of white Southerners when he walked too close. But he has never been the one holding the power before, and he does not know what to do with it. He takes a step back, raises his hands slowly, palms out. "I am not gonna hurt you," he says quietly. The woman does not move. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and comment below which country you are watching from. The woman's name is Greta. She fled Hamburg 3 weeks ago after the firebombing finally took her apartment, her neighbors, and everything she owned except the clothes she wore. She has been in this camp for 9 days. She has eaten watery soup and stale bread. She has slept on a wooden floor with 40 other women. She has waited in line for a toilet that does not flush. And she has learned very quickly that some guards are cruel, some are indifferent. And a rare few are capable of small mercies, but she has never spoken to a black soldier before. In Germany, she was told they were savages, dangerous, subhuman. The propaganda posters showed them as beasts. She believed it because everyone believed it, because believing was easier than questioning. Now, sitting on the cold ground, she does not know what to believe. The man in front of her does not look like a beast. He looks tired. He looks kind. And that terrifies her more than anything. James crouches down, still keeping his distance. "Do you speak English?" he asks. Greta nods slowly. Her mother was a teacher. She learned English as a girl. "Why are you crying?" James asks. Greta looks at him for a long moment. Then she speaks, her voice hoarse. "My son, they took him 3 days ago. They said he was sick, fever. They took him to the medical tent. I have not seen him since. They will not let me go to him." Her hands shake as she speaks. James feels something tighten in his chest. He knows what it is like to be powerless, to have something taken and no way to fight for it. "How old?" he asks. "4," Greta whispers. James stands. "Wait here," he says. Greta stares at him. "You will help." Her voice is disbelief and hope tangled together. James does not answer. He just walks away into the rain toward the medical tent on the other side of the camp. The medical tent is run by a white lieutenant named Harris. Harris is from Ohio. He has been overseas for 2 years. He is competent, exhausted, and he does not have time for questions. James finds him outside the tent, smoking a cigarette. "Lieutenant," James says, "there is a woman, her boy. She has not seen him in 3 days. He came here with a fever. Can I tell her if he is all right?" Harris takes a drag, looks at James with tired eyes. "What is his name?" "I did not ask," James admits. Harris almost smiles. "Then how am I supposed to find him, Carter?" James shifts his weight. "She is blonde, thin. The boy is 4, German." Harris sighs. "They are all blonde and thin and German, Sergeant. Tell her the boy is fine. We have not lost any children." "Can she see him?" James asks. Harris shakes his head. "Quarantine." Another 2 days, then she can have him back. James nods. Thank you, sir. He turns to leave. Harris calls after him. Carter, you are a good man. Do not get soft. They would not have done the same for you. James walks back through the rain. Harris is right. He knows Harris is right. If the roles were reversed, if James were the prisoner and Greta the guard, she would not have helped him. Germany built camps for people like James. Not displaced persons camps, death camps, he knows this. But knowing it does not stop him from walking back to that corner where Greta still sits, shivering now, her arms wrapped around herself. Your boy is fine, James says. He is in quarantine, fever broke yesterday, 2 more days they will release him. Greta looks up at him and something breaks in her face. She starts to cry again, but this time it is different. Relief, gratitude. Thank you, she whispers. Thank you, James shifts, uncomfortable. You should go inside, out of the cold. Greta stands slowly. She is taller than he expected. Why did you help me, she asks. James does not have an answer, or maybe he has too many answers. So he just says, because I could, and he walks away. 2 days later, Greta gets her son back. His name is Peter. He is small for 4, with his mother's blonde hair and his father's gray eyes. His father is dead, killed on the Eastern Front in 1943. Greta has not cried for him in over a year. There are no tears left for the dead, only for the living. She holds Peter tightly, feeling his small heartbeat against her chest, and she thinks about the soldier who helped her. She does not know his name, she only knows his face. And the fact that he did not have to help, but he did. That night, James is on duty again. He walks the perimeter. The rain has stopped and the air smells of wet earth and smoke. He sees Greta near the mess hall, holding Peter's hand. She sees him. For a moment, they just look at each other across the distance. Then Greta nods, a small, deliberate gesture. James nods back, and that is all. That should be all. But the next evening, Greta is waiting near the fence when James begins his rounds. She should not be there. The prisoners are supposed to stay in their barracks after dark, but the camp is chaotic, understaffed, and rules are loosely enforced. Greta stands near the wire, her hands folded in front of her. When James approaches, she speaks first. I do not know your name, she says. James, he says after a pause. James Carter, Sergeant. Greta Hoffman, she replies. I wanted to thank you again for Peter. No one else would have helped, James shrugs, uncomfortable with gratitude, just did what was right. In a war, what is right? Greta asks. It is not rhetorical. She genuinely wants to know. James looks at her, really looks at her. She is not the enemy. She is a woman who lost everything, a mother trying to keep her son alive, just like his own mother back in Georgia trying to keep his younger brother fed. I do not know, James admits. But maybe it starts with seeing people, not uniforms, not flags, people. Greta nods slowly. You are not what I expected, she says. Neither are you, James replies. Over the next week, it becomes a routine. Every evening when James walks his rounds, Greta is there. They talk, small things at first, the weather, the food, Peter's health, then bigger things. Greta tells James about Hamburg before the war. The parks, the music, the life that existed before everything burned. James tells Greta about Georgia, the heat, the pine trees, the unspoken rules that governed his existence. I was not allowed to look white men in the eye, James says one night. Not directly, it was disrespect, could get you killed. Greta is silent for a moment. We were told you were animals, she says quietly. The propaganda, the films. We were told you were dangerous, that you would hurt us. And now, James asks. Greta meets his eyes. Now I think we were lied to about many things. James nods. Yeah, me too. They are quiet for a while, standing on opposite sides of the wire, bound by something neither of them can name. Other soldiers notice. Of course they notice. A black sergeant talking to a German woman every night. It does not take long for the whispers to start. Private Daniels, a young man from Alabama, corners James one morning. You getting friendly with the enemy, Carter? Daniels asks, his tone mocking. James does not look up from cleaning his rifle. I am doing my job. Your job is not to cozy up to some Nazi's widow, Daniels says. James sets the rifle down slowly. You know she is a Nazi, Daniels blinks. She is German, is she not? So that makes her a Nazi, James says flatly. Like being from Alabama makes you a Klansman, Daniels' face goes red. Watch your mouth, boy, James stands. He is taller than Daniels, broader. I am a sergeant, you are a private. You will address me as Sergeant Carter or you will say nothing at all. Daniels glares, but he backs down, he leaves. But James knows the damage is done. Word will spread. And in a segregated army, a black man stepping out of line is always a problem. That night, James considers not going to the fence. It would be smarter, safer, but when evening comes, his feet carry him there anyway. Greta is waiting. You look worried, she says. James hesitates, then he tells her about Daniels. About the whispers, about the danger of being seen. Maybe we should stop, he says. Greta is quiet for a long moment. Do you want to stop, she asks. James looks at her. at this woman who should be his enemy, who was raised to hate him, who has become, against all reason, something close to a friend. No, he admits, but what I want does not matter much. It should, Greta says firmly. In a better world it would. We do not live in a better world, James says. Greta steps closer to the fence. Then maybe we create a small piece of one, right here, just for a few minutes each night, a place where you are not a black soldier and I am not a German prisoner. We are just James and Greta. Two people talking. James feels something shift in his chest, something dangerous and warm. That is a nice dream, he says. Then let us dream it, Greta replies. 3 weeks pass. The camp begins to empty as prisoners are processed and released. Greta receives her papers. She and Peter will be moved to a resettlement area near Bremen. She tells James on a Thursday evening. I leave in 2 days, she says. Her voice is steady, but her hands shake. James feels something cold settle in his stomach. He knew this was temporary. He knew it would end, but knowing does not make it easier. That is good, he says. You will be with Peter, safe. Yes, Greta says, safe, but neither of them sounds convinced. Will you write to me? Greta asks suddenly. James looks at her startled. That is not allowed, he says. I know, Greta replies. But will you? James thinks about the consequences, about the rules, about the 100 ways this could go wrong. Then he says, yes, if you write to me first so I have your address. Greta smiles. It is the first real smile he has seen from her. It transforms her face. Then I will write, she says, I promise. The night before Greta leaves, James breaks a rule. He brings her something, a can of peaches from the officers' mess. He could be court-martialed for this, theft of military supplies, fraternization with the enemy, but he does it anyway. He passes the can through the fence. For Peter, he says, so he remembers there is sweetness in the world. Greta takes the can, holding it like it is made of gold. Thank you, she whispers. Then she does something James does not expect. She reaches through the wire and touches his hand, just for a second. Her fingers are cold and rough and trembling, and in that moment James understands something he has been avoiding. This is not just kindness. This is not just friendship. This is something bigger, something forbidden, something that could destroy them both. He pulls his hand back gently. You should go, he says, his voice rough. Greta nods. Goodbye, James. Goodbye, Greta. She walks away. James watches until she disappears into the shadows, and he wonders if he will ever see her again. 6 weeks later, James receives a letter. It arrives at mail call, and he almost does not believe it is real. The handwriting is careful, slanted, unmistakably hers. He waits until he is alone in his tent before he opens it. Dear James, it begins. I hope this letter finds you well. Peter and I are in Bremen. We have a small room in a boarding house. It is not much, but it is ours. Peter asks about you often. He calls you the kind soldier. I do not correct him, because that is what you are, kind, in a world that has forgotten kindness. I think of our conversations often. I think of the world we imagined, the better one. I do not know if we will ever see it. But I am grateful to have seen a glimpse of it with you through that fence. If you wish to write back, you may. I will understand if you do not, but I hope you will. Yours, Greta. James reads the letter 3 times. Then he pulls out a piece of paper and begins to write. Dear Greta. The letters continue for months. James writes about his duties, his thoughts, the small moments of beauty he finds in the ruins of Europe. Greta writes about rebuilding, about Peter's laughter, about the slow return of hope. They do not speak of love, they do not name what this is, but it is there in every line, every word chosen with care. James keeps her letters in a tin box under his cot. He reads them when the nights are long and the loneliness presses down. One day his bunkmate Corporal Washington sees him reading. Who is she? Washington asks. James hesitates. Washington is a good man, from Harlem, trustworthy. Someone I met at the camp, James says. A German woman. Washington's eyebrows rise. James nods. Washington is quiet for a long time. Then he says, you are playing with fire, brother. I know, James replies. Then why? James looks at the letter in his hands. Because she makes me feel like a person, not a uniform, not a color, just a man. But fire burns, and James is about to learn just how dangerous this flame is. In early November, a white officer named Captain Rawlings is reviewing mail logs. Rawlings is a Texan. He believes in order, in hierarchy, in the natural separation of races. When he sees that Sergeant James Carter has been receiving letters from a German address, he becomes interested. When he learns the letters are from a woman, he becomes angry. Rawlings calls James into his office. Sergeant Carter, Rawlings says, tapping the mail log, you have been corresponding with a civilian, a German civilian, a woman. James stands at attention. Yes, sir, and you see no problem with this? Rawlings asks. James swallows. She is not military, sir, not a combatant. I believed personal correspondence was permitted. Rawlings leans back in his chair. Permitted technically. but inadvisable, especially for a man in your position. My position, sir? James asks carefully. Rawlings smiles. It is not a kind smile. You are a Negro soldier, Carter, fraternizing with a white woman, even a German one. That sends a message we cannot allow. James sits frozen in the chair. The word fraternizing hangs in the air like smoke. Sir, with respect, I have done nothing inappropriate. I escorted a civilian for her safety. I have maintained proper conduct at all times. Rawlings taps the letter on his desk. And yet you write to her, you correspond, you think about her. He leans forward. Tell me, Carter. When you walk through that camp, do the other guards see you as their equal, or do they see a man who thinks he is above his station? James feels heat rising in his chest. I have never thought myself above anything, sir. Good, Rawlings says. Then you will understand when I tell you this correspondence ends today. No more letters, no more visits. You will perform your duty and nothing more. James wants to argue, wants to say that Greta is different. That she sees him as a man, not a color, but he knows it will not matter, not to Rawlings, not to the army. He stands, salutes. Yes, sir. As he leaves the office, his hands are shaking, not from fear, from rage. That evening, James walks the perimeter of the camp in silence. The sun is setting behind the barbed wire, casting long shadows across the dirt. He thinks of the letter in his pocket, the one he wrote last night, the one he will never send. In it, he had told Greta about his childhood in Alabama, about his mother's hands, rough from washing white people's clothes, about the first time he wore the uniform and thought maybe, just maybe, the world would see him differently. He stops near the gate. A group of German women are being escorted back from the mess hall. They walk in pairs, whispering to each other. Some of them glance at him, not with fear, not with hatred, just curiosity. One of them nods. He nods back. It is a small thing, but it feels enormous. Because in this moment behind the wire, the rules are different. Here he is not the Negro. He is the guard, the authority, the man with the keys. And maybe that is why Rawlings is so afraid. Greta does not understand why the letters stop. At first, she thinks perhaps he is busy. The war is ending. There is talk of tribunals, of trials, of who will be punished and who will be sent home. She waits by the window of her barracks each evening, watching the guards change shifts. Sometimes she sees him. He never looks up. One night, she asks another guard, a young white soldier from Ohio, if he knows James Carter. The soldier shifts uncomfortably. Carter, yeah, I know him. Why? I was wondering if he is well, she says carefully. The soldier looks at her for a long moment, then he leans in. Lady, if you are smart, you will stay away from Carter. There are people watching him, watching anyone who gets too close to him. You understand? Greta's stomach tightens. What people? The soldier shakes his head. Just stay away for your own good and his. He walks off. Greta stands there alone as the evening bell rings across the camp. Days pass, then weeks. James throws himself into his work. He volunteers for extra shifts. He inspects supply lines. He trains new guards, anything to keep his mind occupied. But at night, when the camp is quiet, he lies in his bunk and thinks of her. He wonders if she hates him, if she thinks he has forgotten her. One evening, Private Lewis sits down next to him in the mess hall. You look like hell, man, Lewis says. James does not answer. Let me guess, that German girl. Lewis shakes his head. I told you, Carter, this was always going to end badly. It did not end, James says quietly. It was ended for me. Lewis leans in, voice low. Listen, I know you think this is about love, about connection, but you need to understand something. They do not want us to have that. Not with white women, not with anyone. We are supposed to fight, to serve, and then to disappear. James looks at him. And you are fine with that? Lewis shrugs. I am alive. That is more than a lot of brothers can say. Greta decides to take a risk. She writes a letter, not to James directly, but to the camp administrator's office. She asks for a meeting. She says she has information about black market activity in the camp. It is a lie. But it is the only way she can think of to get inside the administrative building, where James might be. 2 days later, she is escorted to a small office. A gray-haired officer sits behind the desk. He does not look pleased. You reported black market activity, he says. What do you know? Greta's heart pounds. I made a mistake. I thought I saw something, but I was wrong. The officer narrows his eyes. You wasted my time. I am sorry, she says. I wanted to speak to someone, to ask if there is any news about when we might be released. The officer stands. You will be released when we decide you will be released. Until then, you will follow the rules. Do you understand? Greta nods. As she is escorted out, she glances down the hallway, and there at the far end she sees him, James. He freezes, their eyes meet, and in that moment everything they cannot say passes between them. James knows he should not follow her, but he does. He waits until the guard escorting her turns a corner, then he slips down a side corridor. He catches up to her near the rear exit. Greta, she turns, her eyes are wide. James. They told me to stay away from you. I know, he says. They told me the same. They stand there just a few feet apart, so close, but it feels like miles. Why did they stop the letters? She asks. James swallows. Because they think I am crossing a line. What line? The one that says men like me do not get to have what I want. Greta steps closer. And what do you want? James looks at her, really looks at her, and for the first time he says it out loud. I want to be with you not as a guard, not as a soldier, just as a man. Greta's breath catches. Then be with me. It is not that simple. Yes, it is, she says. We make it simple. Before James can respond, footsteps echo down the hall, heavy boots, multiple sets. Go, James hisses. Greta hesitates, then runs. James steps back into the main corridor just as two military police officers round the corner. One of them is Sergeant Rawlings. He looks at James with cold satisfaction. Carter, funny seeing you here. Just finishing my rounds, sir, James says. Rawlings smirks. Your rounds in the administrative wing. Where detainees are escorted. Yes, sir. And you did not happen to see a German woman just now, did you? James meets his eyes. No, sir. Rawlings steps closer. Let me be very clear, Carter. You are being watched, every move. Every conversation, every breath, and when you slip up, and you will slip up, I will be there. Do you understand? James's jaw tightens. I understand, sir. Rawlings nods. Good, dismissed. As James walks away, his hands are shaking again. But this time it is not rage, it is fear, because he knows Rawlings is right, one mistake and everything ends. That night Greta lies in her bunk and stares at the ceiling. Around her other women sleep. Some snore, some cry softly. She thinks about James's words. I want to be with you just as a man. She has never thought of herself as brave. During the war she did what she was told. She believed what she was taught. But now in this camp with this man she feels something she has not felt in years. Hope, and she will not let them take it from her. The next morning she approaches one of the older women in the barracks, a woman named Greta who has been in the camp longer than anyone. Greta, Greta whispers, if someone wanted to get a message out of the camp to someone on the outside. How would they do it? Greta looks at her sharply. Why would you want to do that? Because I need help. Greta studies her for a long moment, then she leans in. There is a civilian supply truck, comes every Thursday. The driver, he takes letters. For a price. What price? Greta asks. Greta smiles. Whatever you have that he wants. Greta has nothing of value, no jewelry, no money, but she has something the driver might want, information. The next Thursday she waits near the supply depot. She watches as the truck pulls in. The driver is a middle-aged man with a cigarette dangling from his lips. He does not look like someone who cares about rules. When the guards are distracted, she approaches him. Excuse me, she says in halting English. I need to send a letter. The driver looks her up and down. A letter to who? To a friend outside the camp. He laughs. Lady, I do not run a postal service. I can pay you, she says. With what? Greta hesitates. Then she leans in. I know things. About the camp, about what the guards do, things people on the outside might want to know. The driver's eyes narrow. What kind of things? The kind that could get people in trouble, she says. It is a bluff, but it works. The driver takes a long drag on his cigarette. Write your letter. I will see what I can do. Greta writes the letter that night, but not to James, to someone else, someone she hopes can help. She addresses it to the International Red Cross office in Frankfurt. In the letter, she describes the conditions in the camp, the lack of medical care, the inadequate food, and she mentions carefully that there are soldiers being disciplined for showing basic human decency to detainees. She does not name James, but she plants the seed. She gives the letter to the driver the following week. He takes it without a word. Days pass, then weeks. She hears nothing. But then one morning something changes. A convoy of vehicles arrives at the camp, official-looking cars with Red Cross insignia, inspectors. They walk through the barracks. They interview detainees, they take notes. Rawlings is furious. He storms through the camp, barking orders, demanding to know who requested the inspection, but no one says anything because no one knows except Greta, and she is not telling. James hears about the inspection during morning roll call. The commanding officer is furious. Someone in this camp has been talking, the officer says. Someone has gone outside the chain of command. And when I find out who, there will be consequences. James feels a chill. He glances at Lewis, who looks equally confused. After the meeting, Rawlings pulls James aside. Carter. Did you have anything to do with this? No, sir, James says truthfully. I did not request any inspection. Rawlings studies him. But you know something, I can see it in your face. James keeps his expression neutral. I know nothing, sir. Rawlings leans in close. If I find out you or that German woman had anything to do with this, I will make sure you never wear this uniform again. Do you understand? James nods, but inside he is smiling. Because someone is fighting back, and he has a feeling he knows who. The Red Cross inspection changes everything. Within days, new directives come down from headquarters. Detainees are to be treated with dignity, medical care is to be improved, and any reports of mistreatment are to be investigated immediately. Rawlings is reassigned, no one knows where, but he is gone. James watches him leave, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, face twisted with bitterness. As the car pulls away, James feels something lift from his chest. Not relief, not yet, but possibility. That evening he sees Greta across the yard. She's standing near the barracks, watching the sunset. He walks toward her, slowly. Carefully, when he reaches her, he does not say anything. He just stands there a few feet away. "Did you do it?" he asks quietly. She does not look at him, but she smiles. "I do not know what you are talking about." James shakes his head. "You are dangerous, you know that. Only to people who deserve it," she says, and for the first time in weeks, James laughs. Over the next few weeks, things begin to shift. The new commanding officer is a Colonel Harrison, a black man from Chicago. He does not smile often, but he is fair, he listens. And when James requests permission to resume correspondence with a detainee, Harrison does not shut him down immediately. "Why?" Harrison asks. James chooses his words carefully. "Because she is a human being, sir. And I believe that in order to rebuild after this war, we need to see each other as human beings, not as enemies." Harrison leans back in his chair. "You are aware that this will not be popular with the other soldiers." "With command, I am aware, sir." Harrison nods slowly. "All right, you have my permission, but Carter, understand this. You are representing more than yourself. You are representing every black soldier in this army. Do not make me regret this." James stands and salutes. "I will not, sir." As he leaves the office, his heart is pounding, not from fear, from hope. James writes to Greta that night. He tells her about the approval, about the new commanding officer, about how things are changing, but he also tells her the truth. "This will not be easy. People will judge us. They will say terrible things. But if you are willing, I want to try. I want to see where this goes." He seals the letter and delivers it the next morning. 2 days later, he receives her reply. It is short, just 3 words. "I am willing." James reads it over and over. And for the first time since he arrived in Germany, he feels like maybe, just maybe, the world is not as broken as he thought. But not everyone is happy about the changes. There are soldiers who mutter under their breath when James walks by, who leave notes on his bunk, who make it clear that they do not approve. One night, Private Lewis pulls him aside. "Carter, you need to be careful. There are guys talking, saying you have forgotten where you come from." "Forgotten where I come from," James repeats. "I have not forgotten anything." "Then why are you chasing after some white woman?" Lewis asks. James stares at him. "Is that what you think this is, chasing? What else would you call it?" James steps closer. "I would call it seeing someone as a person, as more than her skin color. Maybe you should try it sometime." Lewis shakes his head. "Man, you're playing with fire, and when you get burned, do not say I did not warn you." He walks away. James stands there alone, wondering if Lewis is right, wondering if he is a fool for believing this can work. But then he thinks of Greta's letter, 3 words, "I am willing," and he decides that is enough. The tension in the camp grows. One evening a fight breaks out in the mess hall. 2 white soldiers corner James, accusing him of disrespecting the uniform. James does not back down. "I have disrespected nothing," he says. "Then why are you fraternizing with the enemy?" one of them snarls. "She is not the enemy," James says. "She is a civilian, a human being. She is a Nazi." James feels his fists clench. "She is a woman who had no choice. Just like we had no choice but to fight this war. If you cannot see that, then you are no better than the people we were fighting." The soldiers lunge at him, but before fists can fly, Colonel Harrison steps in. "Enough," he barks. The mess hall goes silent. Harrison looks at the 2 white soldiers. "You two, my office, now." Then he looks at James. "Carter, you stay here." As the soldiers are escorted out, James sits down, hands still shaking. Around him, the other soldiers whisper, but no one says anything to his face, not anymore. Later that night, Colonel Harrison calls James into his office. "Sit down, Carter." James sits. His body is tense, waiting for the reprimand, but Harrison does not yell. He just looks at him. "Do you know what my father told me before I enlisted?" Harrison asks. James shakes his head. "He said, son, you are going to fight 2 wars, one against the enemy and one against your own people. And the second one will be harder." Harrison leans forward. "You are fighting that second war right now, Carter, and I want you to know that I see it. I see what you are trying to do, and I respect it." James swallows hard. "Thank you, sir," but Harrison continues, "You need to be smart, you need to pick your battles, because not everyone is going to understand, and not everyone is going to support you." James nods. "I understand, sir." Harrison stands. "Good. Now get some rest, you are going to need it." As James leaves the office, he feels something he has not felt in a long time. He feels seen. James walks back through the darkened camp, Harrison's words echoing in his mind. The conversation has given him something dangerous, hope, but hope in a place like this can be a weapon or a wound. He passes the guard tower where Miller is finishing his shift. Miller doesn't look down, doesn't acknowledge him. The silence between them has become a wall. When James reaches his barracks, he finds a note slipped under his door. It is written in careful English on thin paper. "Meet me tomorrow, same place, please. I need to tell you something, Helena." His heart hammers. The smart thing would be to burn this note, to pretend he never saw it. To follow Harrison's advice and pick his battles, but James has never been good at doing the smart thing when his heart is involved. He folds the note carefully and tucks it into his breast pocket, right over his heart, where it feels like it belongs. The next afternoon, James takes the long route to the storage area. He checks over his shoulder 3 times. The paranoia is becoming second nature. When he arrives, Helena is already there, but something is different. Her posture is rigid. Her face is pale, and she is not alone. Standing beside her is an older woman, gray hair pulled back severely, sharp features, cold blue eyes that assess James like he is an insect under glass. "This is my mother," Helena says quietly. Frau Adler, the woman does not extend her hand. Instead, she steps forward and speaks in heavily accented English. "So you are the soldier my daughter has been meeting in secret." James's blood turns to ice. He looks at Helena. She won't meet his eyes. "Mama, please," Helena whispers. "I told you I would handle this." Frau Adler ignores her daughter. Her gaze is fixed on James with an intensity that makes his skin crawl. Frau Adler circles James slowly, like a predator evaluating prey. "You think I do not know what is happening here? You think because I am a prisoner that I am blind, stupid?" Her English is precise, deliberate. "No, ma'am," James says carefully. "I do not think that at all. My daughter is young, she is foolish, she does not understand what this means, what you are asking of her." "Mama, stop," Helena pleads. But Frau Adler continues, her voice dropping lower, more dangerous. "Do you know what happened to women in my village who collaborated with soldiers? Do you know what they did to them when the war ended?" James feels his jaw tighten. He knows, everyone knows, the photographs from France, the women with shaved heads paraded through streets, beaten, humiliated, sometimes killed. "I am not asking Helena to collaborate with anything," James says firmly. "I am asking nothing of her except to be seen as a human being." Frau Adler stops walking. She turns to face James directly, and for the first time her expression shifts, not to warmth but to something else, something like reluctant respect. "You speak well," she says. "Better than I expected. I went to college, ma'am, before the war." Her eyebrow arches. "College, and yet they make you a prison guard." James says nothing. There is nothing to say. She knows exactly what that means. Frau Adler glances at her daughter. Helena is crying silently, tears streaming down her face. "I did not come here to threaten you, soldier," Frau Adler says finally. "I came here to warn you both, because what you are doing, it will not end well. For either of you." She steps closer, so close James can see the lines around her eyes, the exhaustion carved into her face. "But I also came to tell you this. If you hurt my daughter, if you use her and discard her like men do, I will find a way to destroy you. Even from behind these fences." The threat hangs in the air like smoke. James looks directly at Frau Adler. "I would never hurt Helena. I care about her." "Care," Frau Adler repeats, tasting the word like poison. "Care is not enough, not in this world. Not for what you two are trying to do." She turns to her daughter. "Helena, we are leaving." "No," Helena says suddenly. It is the first time she has spoken with strength since her mother arrived. "No, Mama. I am staying." Frau Adler's face hardens. "You do not understand what you are risking." "I understand perfectly," Helena says, wiping her tears. "I understand better than you think." Mother and daughter stare at each other. A battle of wills playing out in silence. Finally, Frau Adler shakes her head. "You are more stubborn than your father ever was." She looks back at James one last time. "Protect her, or I will make you regret the day you were born." Then she walks out, leaving James and Helena alone in the heavy silence. Helena collapses against a wooden crate, her hands shaking. "I am so sorry. I did not know she was following me. I did not know she had seen us." James kneels beside her. "It is okay. It is going to be okay." "No," Helena whispers. "It is not, don't you see? If my mother knows, others will know soon. Word spreads in the camp faster than fire." She is right. James knows she is right. In a place like this, secrets have the lifespan of snowflakes. "Then what do we do?" he asks. Helena looks up at him. Her eyes are red but fierce. "We stop hiding. We stop pretending this is nothing. Helena, if we do that, they will separate us. They will transfer me out. Maybe worse, and if we keep hiding, we will live our whole lives in fear," she counters. "Is that what you want, to look over your shoulder forever?" James does not answer, because he does not know. Fear has kept him alive this long. But it has also kept him from living. That night James cannot sleep. He lies in his bunk, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word of the confrontation. Frau Adler's threat echoes in his mind, but so does Helena's question, is this what he wants, to hide forever? He thinks about Birmingham, about the back of the bus, about separate water fountains and separate schools and separate everything. He joined the army because he thought fighting for his country would earn him respect, would earn him equality. But here he is, thousands of miles from home, still fighting the same battles, still hiding who he cares about, still being told where he can go and who he can speak to. The door creaks open. Harrison steps inside. I heard about what happened today, he says quietly. James sits up. How did you already know? I told you, I hear everything. Harrison sits on the edge of the bunk. Miller saw you, he saw the woman's mother leave. He reported it to Captain Berkeley. James feels his stomach drop. What did Berkeley say? He is launching an inquiry, effective immediately. You are to report to his office at 0700 hours tomorrow. Harrison's face is grave. This is serious, James. Fraternization with prisoners can result in court-martial, dishonorable discharge, prison time. James puts his head in his hands. I did not touch her, we just talked, that is all we have ever done. It does not matter, Harrison says. The perception is enough, especially for a black soldier and a white woman. You know how this looks. I know exactly how it looks, James snaps. It looks like I am not allowed to be human. It looks like I am not allowed to care about anyone who does not look exactly like me. It looks like even after everything I have done for this country, I am still not free. Harrison is quiet for a long moment. You are right. And I am sorry that this is the world we live in, but being right does not protect you, and I need you to survive this. James looks up at Harrison. What do I do? Harrison leans forward. You tell them nothing happened. You stick to that story no matter what they ask. You say she approached you with questions about rations and you answered them professionally. That is it, that is all, and if they do not believe me, then you make them prove otherwise, Harrison says firmly. They have no photographs, no witnesses to anything improper, just Miller's suspicions and an old woman's visit. That is not enough for a court-martial. James nods slowly, but his mind is racing. What about Helena? What will happen to her? Harrison's expression darkens. That is not your concern right now. You need to focus on protecting yourself. No, James says. If I go down, I am not letting her go down with me. She has done nothing wrong. James, you cannot save everyone. Maybe not, James replies, but I can try to save her. I owe her that much. Harrison stands. Get some sleep. You are going to need your wits about you tomorrow. Morning comes too fast. James stands outside Captain Berkeley's office, his uniform pressed sharp, his cap straight, his hands steady despite the storm inside him. He knocks twice. Enter, a voice barks. James steps inside. Captain Berkeley sits behind his desk, flanked by two other officers James does not recognize. And standing in the corner, arms crossed, is Miller. His expression is triumphant, predatory. Corporal Washington, Berkeley says without looking up from his papers. Do you know why you are here? Yes, sir. Then let us not waste time. Have you been engaging in unauthorized contact with a female prisoner identified as Helena Adler? James keeps his voice steady. I have spoken with several prisoners in the course of my duties, sir, Miss Adler among them. That is not what I asked, Berkeley snaps, finally looking up. Have you been meeting with her privately? Outside of your official responsibilities, I have answered questions from prisoners when they have approached me, sir, as is my duty as a guard. Miller steps forward. That is a lie, sir. I have seen him multiple times, going to the storage building during his off hours, meeting with her alone. Berkeley's eyes narrow. Is this true, Corporal? James keeps his gaze locked forward. I have conducted inventory checks in that building, sir, as instructed by Sergeant Harrison. If Miss Adler was there during those times, it was coincidental. Coincidental, Berkeley repeats flatly. Yes, sir, one of the other officers leans forward. Corporal Washington, are you aware of the regulations regarding fraternization with enemy nationals? Yes, sir, I am fully aware. Then you understand the severity of these allegations. I understand that they are allegations, sir. Not facts. The room goes silent. Miller's face turns red. He is lying. I know what I saw. Berkeley raises a hand. Private Miller, that is enough. He turns back to James. Corporal, I am going to ask you one more time. Have you developed any kind of personal relationship with this prisoner? James takes a breath. This is the moment, the line in the sand. He can lie, he can protect himself. He can throw Helena under the bus and walk away clean, or he can tell the truth and face whatever comes. Sir, James says slowly, I have treated Miss Adler with the same respect and professionalism I would treat any prisoner under my watch. If that is considered fraternization, then I am guilty, but I have done nothing inappropriate. I have broken no laws. And I have upheld the honor of this uniform to the best of my ability. Berkeley studies him for a long moment. You are a smart man, Corporal, smarter than most, which makes me wonder why you would risk everything for a woman you barely know. With respect, sir, I am not risking anything. Because I have done nothing wrong. Miller slams his hand on the desk. This is bullshit. He is guilty and everyone knows it. Private Miller, Berkeley roars, get out of my office now. Miller storms out, slamming the door behind him. The two other officers exchange glances. Berkeley leans back in his chair. Corporal Washington, I am going to be honest with you. I do not like this situation. I do not like the optics. And I do not like that I have to waste my time on this when I have 1,000 other problems to deal with. I understand, sir. But, Berkeley continues, I also do not have any concrete evidence of wrongdoing, no photographs. No written correspondence, no witnesses to anything beyond conversation. He pauses, which means technically I cannot charge you with anything. James feels a flicker of hope, but he keeps his expression neutral. However, Berkeley says, leaning forward, I am reassigning you, effective immediately. You will be transferred to the motor pool. No more guard duty, no more contact with prisoners. Period, sir, I would prefer to remain in my current post. That is not a request, Corporal, that is an order, James swallows. Yes, sir, dismissed. James walks out of the office in a daze. He has not been court-martialed, he has not been dishonorably discharged, but he has been removed, separated from Helena, exactly what he feared. Harrison is waiting outside. How bad? Transfer to motor pool, no more guard duty. Harrison nods slowly. Could have been worse. Could have been better, James mutters. They walk in silence for a moment, then Harrison speaks. There is something else you should know. They are moving the women, the prisoner population is being consolidated. Helena's group is being transferred to a different camp tomorrow morning. James stops walking. What? It was already in the works. This inquiry just sped up the timeline. Where are they sending her? Harrison hesitates. I do not know, and even if I did, there is nothing you can do about it. James feels something crack inside him. So that is it. I just never see her again, never get to say goodbye. That is the reality, James. That is the way this works. That night, James makes a decision. He waits until after midnight, until the camp is quiet, until Miller is off duty and the new guards are settled into their routines. Then he slips out of his barracks. He moves through shadows, keeping low, staying out of the light. His heart pounds so hard he can hear it in his ears. He reaches the storage building and he waits. 10 minutes pass, then 20. Just when he is about to give up, he sees her. Helena appears from the darkness, wrapped in a thin coat, her face pale in the moonlight. She runs to him, and for the first time they do not just talk. He holds her, she holds him. And for 60 seconds the war does not exist. The rules do not exist. The world does not exist. It is just two people who have found something real in a place designed to destroy humanity. They are moving you tomorrow, James whispers into her hair. I know, Helena says. My mother told me. I do not know where you are going. I do not care, Helena says fiercely. I will find you after this is over. When the world makes sense again, I will find you. James pulls back to look at her face, to memorize every detail. I am from Birmingham, Alabama. If you ever make it to America, that is where I will be. Birmingham, Alabama, she repeats. I will remember. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out something small, a photograph, the only one he has of himself in uniform. Taken back at basic training, before the war, before everything. Take this, he says, so you do not forget what I look like. Helena takes it with trembling hands, then she reaches into her own coat and pulls out a small pendant. A simple silver cross on a chain. This was my grandmother's. It is the only thing I have left from before. She places it in his palm. Keep it safe for me until we meet again. James closes his fist around the pendant. It is still warm from her skin, I promise. They stand there for another moment, neither wanting to let go, but dawn is coming, and with it the consequences of being caught. You have to go, James says. I know, but she does not move, neither does he. Finally, Helena rises on her toes and kisses him, quick, soft, desperate. Then she turns and runs back toward the prisoner barracks. James watches until she disappears into the darkness. He stands there for a long time after. The pendant clutched tight in his hand. The weight of it feels like a promise, like a prayer, like a reason to survive whatever comes next. He does not know if he will ever see her again. He does not know if this story has a happy ending. But he knows this. For the first time in his life, he loved someone without fear, without hiding, without shame. And no one can take that away from him, not the army, not Miller, not even the war itself. That belongs to him forever. 3 months pass like decades. James works in silence, eats in silence, sleeps in silence. The other guards notice the change in him, the way his shoulders slump, the way he stares at nothing during meals. Miller watches him like a hawk. Waiting for him to break regulations again, waiting for an excuse to finish what he started, but James gives him nothing. He follows every order, reports on time, keeps his uniform pressed. He becomes invisible. A ghost in army greens. At night, he lies in his bunk and traces the outline of the pendant beneath his shirt. He has heard nothing from Greta, no letters, no messages. He does not even know if she is still in the village. Or if she has been forced to leave. The not knowing is worse than any punishment. It eats at him from the inside, makes every day feel like drowning. Then one afternoon in late August, something changes. A new batch of prisoners arrives at the camp, and with them comes a young German girl, no older than 16. She approaches the fence during his shift, her eyes scanning the guards nervously. She walks directly toward James, her hands trembling. "Excuse me," she says in broken English. "You are James." His heart stops. He glances around quickly. No one is watching. "Who is asking?" he says carefully. The girl reaches into her coat and pulls out a folded piece of paper, worn thin from handling. "Greta," she whispers. "She is my cousin. She told me to find you, to give you this." James takes the letter like it might disappear. His hands shaking so badly he almost drops it. "Is she okay?" he asks urgently. The girl nods. "She is safe, but she cannot stay in the village. People talk too much. She had to go." "Where?" James demands. The girl hesitates. "She said you would understand. She said to tell you she is waiting where the river bends." James feels tears prick his eyes. The river, the place they first kissed. "Thank you," he whispers. The girl nods and walks away quickly. James waits until his shift ends. Then he goes to the latrine and opens the letter with shaking hands. The letter is written in careful English, each word chosen with precision. "My dearest James, I do not know if this will reach you. I do not know if you still think of me, but I must try. They came to the house 3 days after you left. Your commanding officer, he told my father what we were, what we did. My father did not speak to me for 2 days. Then he told me I had to leave, that I was bringing shame to the family. I am staying with my aunt now. In a village 30 kilometers away. But I am not hiding, I am not ashamed. What we had was real, and I will wait for you however long it takes. The war will end someday. And when it does, I will be at the river every Sunday at noon. Until you come back to me, I love you, James. I will love you until my last breath. Greta." James reads the letter 3 times, memorizing every word. Then he folds it carefully and places it inside his shirt, next to the pendant. He has a plan forming in his mind, dangerous, reckless, but the only one that matters. He begins planning his escape, not from the army, not yet, but a way to see her just once more. He studies the duty rosters, the guard rotations. The supply runs into town. There is a truck that leaves every Sunday morning, bringing food to the local distribution center. It returns in the afternoon. If he could get on that truck, if he could slip away for just a few hours, he could make it to the river. He approaches Marcus 2 days later. His closest friend in the unit, a fellow black soldier from Detroit. "I need a favor," James says quietly. Marcus looks at him seriously. "This about that German girl?" James nods. "I need to see her one more time," Marcus sighs. "Man, Miller is watching you like a bloodhound. You get caught again, you are looking at a court-martial, prison time." "I know," James says, "but I cannot live like this, not knowing, not seeing her. It is killing me, Marcus." Marcus is quiet for a long moment, then he shakes his head. "You are crazy, you know that." James smiles for the first time in months. "Does that mean you will help me?" The plan is simple. On Sunday morning, Marcus will report James as sick, confined to barracks. Meanwhile, James will hide in the back of the supply truck, under tarps and crates. The driver, a friendly white private from Iowa named Tommy, has already been paid off. 2 cartons of cigarettes and a bottle of schnapps. Tommy will drop James near the river, give him 2 hours, then pick him up on the return route. If James is not there, Tommy leaves without him, no questions asked. The risk is enormous. If Miller finds out, it is over, court-martial, dishonorable discharge, possibly prison, but James does not care anymore. He has spent 3 months living like a dead man, and he is done. Sunday morning arrives cold and gray. James slips out of the barracks before dawn, his heart hammering in his chest. He climbs into the back of the supply truck and buries himself under canvas tarps, the smell of diesel and dust filling his lungs. The engine roars to life, and they roll through the camp gates. James closes his eyes and thinks of Greta, waiting by the river, waiting for him. The truck rumbles along dirt roads for what feels like hours, every bump and jolt sending pain through James's cramped body. He can hear Tommy whistling in the cab, completely unbothered. Finally, the truck slows, then stops. Tommy raps twice on the back panel, the signal. James pushes the tarp aside and climbs out. They are parked on a narrow country lane, trees thick on both sides. "River is half a mile that way," Tommy says, pointing. "I will be back at 1300 hours, on the dot. You miss it, you are on your own." "I will be here," James promises. Tommy nods. "Good luck, soldier." The truck pulls away in a cloud of dust, and James is alone. He starts walking. His legs weak from being cramped for so long. his heart pounding so hard he can hear it in his ears. The forest opens up, and there it is, the river, wide and slow and silver in the gray morning light, and standing on the bank. Wearing a simple blue dress and a wool coat is Greta. For a moment neither of them moves, they just stand there staring at each other across the distance. Then Greta breaks, she runs toward him, her coat flying behind her. James runs too, and they collide in the middle of the path. Arms wrapping around each other so tightly it hurts. Greta is crying, her face buried in his chest. "I thought you would not come," she sobs. "I thought you had forgotten me." "Never," James whispers fiercely. "I could never forget you." He pulls back just enough to look at her, to memorize her face all over again, the freckles on her nose, the way her eyes crinkle when she smiles. "I got your letter," he says. "I have read it 100 times." Greta touches his face gently. "I meant every word." They walk to the river and sit on a fallen log, hands intertwined. For a while they do not speak. They just exist together in this stolen moment. "This impossible meeting, how long do we have?" Greta asks finally. James checks his watch. "An hour, maybe less," she nods, her jaw tightening. "Then we do not waste it." They talk about everything. The last 3 months, the pain of separation, the fear that they would never see each other again. Greta tells him about her aunt, a widow who lost her husband in the war, who does not judge her for loving a black soldier. She says love is too rare to throw away, Greta says quietly, especially now when the world is so full of hate. James tells her about Marcus, about Tommy, about the risk they all took to make this happen. "I have good people around me," he admits, "even in the army, even with everything." Greta looks at him seriously. "What happens when the war ends?" James has thought about this every day. "I do not know," he says honestly. "The army will ship me home eventually, back to Louisiana, but I am not the same man who left there. I cannot go back to that life. Not after this, not after you." "Then do not," Greta says simply. James stares at her. "What are you saying?" She takes a deep breath. "I am saying when the war ends, we find a way. We go somewhere no one knows us, where no one cares. We build a life." James feels hope flare in his chest, dangerous and fragile. "You would leave Germany, your family." "My father disowned me," Greta says bitterly. "And Germany is broken. There is nothing left for me here but you." "You are my future." James kisses her then, slow and deep and full of promise. When they pull apart, he reaches into his pocket. "I want you to keep something for me," he says. He pulls out a small envelope. Inside is a letter, addressed to his mother. "If something happens to me, if I do not make it home, I want you to send this." It tells her about you, about us, about how you made me believe I deserved to be loved. Greta takes the letter with trembling hands. "Nothing will happen to you, promise me," James insists. She nods. "I promise." They sit in silence for a few more minutes, watching the river flow. Then James checks his watch. "I have to go." Greta grips his hand tighter. "When will I see you again?" "I do not know," James admits, "but I will find a way, I swear it." They stand, one last embrace, one last kiss. Then James forces himself to walk away. Tommy is waiting exactly where he said he would be, engine idling. James climbs into the back without a word, buries himself under the tarps again. The truck rumbles back toward the camp, and James closes his eyes, replaying every second, every word, every touch. When they arrive back at base, James slips out and makes his way to the barracks. Marcus is waiting. "You good?" he asks. James nods. "Yeah, I am good." For the first time in months, it is true. He has seen her, held her, made plans with her, and that is enough to keep him going. But the universe has other plans. 2 days later, Miller summons him to his office. James walks in with his stomach in knots. Miller is sitting behind his desk, a smug smile on his face. "Sit down, Private." James sits. Miller leans forward. "I received an interesting report yesterday about a supply truck that made an unauthorized stop on Sunday, and a soldier who went missing for 2 hours." James feels his blood turn to ice. Miller laughs. "You thought you were clever, didn't you?" Miller slides a folder across the desk. Inside are photographs, grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. James and Greta by the river, embracing, kissing. "One of the local villagers saw you," Miller says coldly. "Recognized you. Reported it to me personally." James stares at the photos, his mind racing. Miller stands and walks around the desk. "You directly violated my orders, Private. You left base without authorization. You consorted with a German civilian, and you endangered unit integrity." "I love her," James says quietly. Miller laughs again, bitter and cruel. "Love? You think love matters here? You think love changes the fact that you are black and she is white, that you are a soldier and she is the enemy? The war is over," James says. "Germany surrendered. The rules have not changed," Miller roars. "And I am done tolerating your insubordination." He walks back to his desk and picks up another paper. "I am recommending you for court-martial. Fraternization with the enemy, desertion of post, conduct unbecoming. You are done, Private. You are finished." James is confined to barracks pending trial, his uniform stripped, his weapon confiscated. He sits on his bunk, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the hammer to fall. Marcus visits him that night, slipping in after lights out. "Man, I am sorry," Marcus whispers. "We were so careful. It is not your fault," James says. "Miller was always going to find a way to destroy me. This just gave him the excuse." Marcus sits beside him. "What are you going to do?" James does not answer for a long time. Then he says quietly, "I am going to run." Marcus looks at him sharply. "What? I am not sitting in a cell for loving someone," James says. "I am not letting them break me. I am going to find Greta and we are disappearing." "That is desertion," Marcus hisses. "They will hunt you forever." "Then let them hunt," James says. "I would rather spend my life running with her than spend it in chains without her." Marcus shakes his head. "You are crazy, probably," James agrees, "but I am done playing by their rules." Marcus is quiet, then he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a roll of bills, German marks. "Take it," he says, "get as far as you can." James waits 3 more days, watching the guard rotations, memorizing the patterns. On the third night, when the moon is dark and the camp is quiet, he moves. He slips out of the barracks through a loose window. Crawls through the mud to the perimeter fence. Cuts a hole with wire cutters Marcus smuggled to him, and disappears into the forest. By dawn he is 10 miles away, moving fast, staying off the roads. He knows they will come after him. Military police, maybe even dogs, but he has a head start and he knows where he is going. It takes him 2 days to reach Greta's aunt's village, moving only at night, hiding during the day, stealing food from gardens. Drinking from streams, he is exhausted, filthy, starving, but he keeps moving. When he finally reaches the small cottage on the edge of the village, he collapses against the door. Greta opens it, her eyes go wide. "James," he falls into her arms. "I ran," he whispers. "I could not let them take me away from you, so I ran." Greta pulls him inside quickly, locks the door behind them. Her aunt appears, an older woman with kind eyes. She takes one look at James and nods. "He is safe here," she says. They hide him in the attic for 3 weeks. Greta brings him food and water, sits with him for hours. They make plans, whispered and desperate. They will go to France, maybe Belgium, somewhere the American military has less reach. They will change their names, start over. "Are you scared?" Greta asks one night. James thinks about it. "Terrified," he admits. "But I would rather be terrified with you than safe without you." Greta kisses him. "Then we do this together." On the 4th week, Greta's aunt arranges papers, forged identification, a contact in the underground network, people who help refugees and deserters disappear. "You leave tomorrow night," she tells them. "A truck will take you to the border. From there you are on your own." James takes the old woman's hands. "I do not know how to thank you," she smiles sadly. "You love my niece, that is thanks enough, now go. Build the life you both deserve." The next night they pack 2 small bags, everything they own fitting into canvas sacks. James leaves his uniform behind, folded neatly, a symbol of the life he is abandoning. They climb into the back of a farmer's truck, hidden under hay bales, and as the truck rolls away into the darkness, James takes Greta's hand. "No going back now," he whispers. They cross into France 3 days later, traveling only at night, sleeping in barns and abandoned buildings. The journey is brutal, cold, exhausting, terrifying. They are stopped twice by French police, but the forged papers hold. And they are waved through. When they finally reach Paris, they collapse in a tiny boarding house in the immigrant quarter, a place where no one asks questions. James finds work loading trucks. Greta cleans houses. They live in a single room with a shared bathroom down the hall. It is nothing like what either of them imagined, but it is theirs. They are together and they are free. Months pass, then a year. The fear of being discovered fades slowly. They learn French. Make friends with other displaced people, other couples like them, couples the world did not want. One morning, Greta wakes up sick, nauseous, dizzy. James takes her to a doctor, and they learn she is pregnant. James holds her in the tiny exam room, both of them crying. "We are going to have a family," Greta whispers. "A real family." James kisses her forehead. "I know, and I am going to spend every day making sure they never feel ashamed of who they are." Their son is born in the spring of 1947, a healthy boy with light brown skin and his mother's green eyes. They name him Thomas, after the truck driver who helped them escape. James holds his son for the first time in the charity hospital, this tiny fragile life that should not exist, that the world said was wrong, and he feels a fierce pride he has never known. "You are perfect," he whispers. "And you are loved." They raised Thomas in that tiny room in Paris, teaching him 3 languages, English, German, French, telling him stories about how his parents met, about the war, about love being stronger than hate. Thomas grows up knowing he is different, knowing the world will judge him for the color of his skin, but he also grows up knowing he is wanted, cherished, the product of a love so powerful it defied armies and laws and hatred itself. Years pass, James and Greta grow older. They never return to America, never return to Germany. They build their life in the margins, in the spaces between, and they are happy, not in the way movies portray happiness, but in the quiet way of people who fought for every moment, who know how fragile joy is, how precious. In 1963, James receives a letter, forwarded through old military contacts. It is from Marcus, still alive, still in Detroit. The letter says the Army officially listed James as a deserter in 1946. But that no one ever came looking. The case was quietly closed, too many deserters, too much chaos, not worth the effort. Marcus writes that the world is changing, slowly, painfully, but changing, that maybe one day James could come home. James reads the letter sitting on a bench in a Paris park. Thomas, now 16, sits beside him. "Are you going back?" Thomas asks. James looks at his son, then at Greta walking toward them with bread from the bakery, her hair gray now. Her face lined with age, but still beautiful, still his. "No," James says quietly, "this is home now, you are home." He folds the letter and puts it in his pocket, then he stands and takes Greta's hand. They walk together through the park. Three people the world tried to erase, three people who refused to disappear. And as the sun sets over Paris, James thinks about that boy from Louisiana, the one who believed he was not worthy of love, and he smiles. Because that boy was wrong, love found him anyway, and it changed everything.